Hello there, welcome to the channel. This is Nerd World Empire, and today we are discussing the brand new series on HBO Max, or if you're in the UK, it is on Now TV, Sky basically. That is Welcome to Derry, which is the It TV series, not the It mini-series from the early 90s, which is brilliant, by the way, if you've not seen it. But this is the brand new series set in the same universe as a prequel, said to be 3 seasons long. Each season going to be in a different era, which show the origins of Pennywise. Not too sure if that's a good idea or not, but so far, so good. So good. This is a spoiler-filled and spoiler-free review. We're going to start out without spoilers and then lean into spoiler territory. And by review, as you may know if you're not new to this channel, I'm not big on doing reviews, but when I encounter something new that's really good, I do like to talk about it. Given it a few days since the first episode came out before doing this video, so bear with me while we talk about Welcome to Derry. Now, as I said, Welcome to Derry is set in the same universe as the more recent It movies, starring Bill Skarsgård playing the eponymous creature, whatever it is. Pennywise, the dancing clown. Now, this series initially takes place in 1962. Now, I will admit that when I first watched the episode, I missed so much. So much. There is a channel called Heavy Spoilers. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. They do an absolutely pitch perfect breakdown of this episode. It is, of course, based on the channel name, filled with spoilers. I'm not going to go into that level of detail. If you do, I advise go check out their channel. I'm not going to link it down below because I've no affiliation with their channel whatsoever. They're massive and I'm tiny. I just like to talk about things I like to talk about. And Welcome to Derry is something I want to talk about today. It is set in the 1960s. Now, as I said, it is set in the same universe as the original movies. But there are so many little details. Like there's a reference to the Shawshank Prison, of course, the Shawshank Redemption, which is another Stephen King thing. The whole thing is set in Derry, which if you are not new to Stephen King novellas, a lot of his stories are set in Derry, which is a fictional town in Maine, New England, United States. And all the Pennywise movies have been set there. Pennywise itself is a extra-dimensional creature, not necessarily an alien that traveled to our dimension and then feeds on people. Now, I was always a little unclear personally as to what exactly it feeds on, because on the one hand, it seems to physically consume its victims, as in like it will actually take a bite out of them, but it seems to thrive on the fear. Now, it seems to be more than just sadism. It actually seems to genuinely be feeding on their fear. The more afraid of it they are, the sweeter they are, the better they taste. Now, I always took that initially to mean that literally like makes their meat taste better, but I don't think that's what it is. It's either just a sadistic serial killer extra-dimensional creature, or because it's not exactly entirely biological, it feeds on the abstract, the actual fear, and actually inflicting injury and pain just enhances the fear, because there's always a body, a lot of blood. There might be a bite taken out of it or an arm ripped off, but generally speaking, it doesn't seem to fully consume its prey. I think it genuinely feeds on the fear for as long as it can. And that was always my personal take. I don't know about yours. Let me know in the comment section down below. There's a lot missing from both the 90s miniseries and from the updated Bill Skarsgård movies that were in the books. And this series is set to fill in a lot of those blanks. Now, I'm not going to say what they are because I don't know, because I haven't watched the show completely yet. I've only seen the first episode like everybody else so far. But I do know that there is a considerable amount, including obviously the extraordinarily infamous scene in the book, which is kind of creepy and thankfully has been left out of both interpretations of it, and so far has been left out of this as well, and I hope they continue that. But there are many other chapters in the book which are not explored, characters that are not explored, that are simply not in the movies, that are said to be in this rendition, this version. But so far, it seems to be being quite true to its source material, and it begun setting up a lot of these things. Now, I'm still staying away from spoilers for now, so you're good if you haven't watched the first episode. Uh, but as I said, it does miss those versions, both the '90s version and the updated, miss out so much from the book that there there's an argument to be made that they're not even a good rendition of the book. I don't personally subscribe to that. I think both versions are excellent. I prefer the '90s version, and that's not just because I think it's not just because I grew up with it. I genuinely think it's a better version. And Tim Curry, absolutely amazing actor, and I will not fight anyone over to defend that position, but I do stand by that position. Tim Curry, marvelous actor, every role ever been, from Rocky Horror through to, the creepy steward in Home Alone 2, right the way through to Hexus, and pretty much everything else he's ever touched. Absolute gold standard of a man. I actually got to see him talk a few years ago at For the Love of Horror near Manchester in the UK, where I went and I saw him up on the stage giving a talk. Absolutely fantastic. I've never met the man personally. But again, as I've mentioned in other videos, I don't tend to get too close to actors because I don't want to be disappointed by finding out things about them that ruin the roles for me, which, like the slap that was heard across the world, has really ruined Will Smith for me. I've lost all respect for that man completely, and I'm not going back on it anytime soon. So that's ruined a lot of films for me. I'll still watch them, like Independence Day, but it's always in the back of my mind. It's like, what kind of person are you really? Anyway, back to Welcome to Derry. We're going to start getting into a few more spoilers here now. I'm not going to ruin the entire episode, but effectively I'm going to talk about some of the highlights, some of the things that I really like. And I am going to completely spoil the ending. So advanced warning, I will completely spoil the ending of this episode. The episode starts out with this young lad kind of hitchhiking down the road. You'll get a bit more of his backstory in a bit, but a car drives past him. Eventually another car picks him up with this seemingly really lovely family. And as they're driving along, the little boy at the end, who's probably autistic, is like spelling words as they're saying them. And his sister is there, sat in the middle. And the mother and father are talking up front about, we'll drop you off at home. And he's like, the kid's like, yeah, well, I'm going to Portland, anywhere but Derry, basically. And I'm like, not a problem. We'll drop you off, make sure you're okay, because it's dark, it's not safe, blah, blah, blah. But then they start to say a few weird things. Like the mother says to the daughter, like, you need something like you need a vice to keep her legs closed. Very odd thing for a mother to say to her daughter for a start, basically slut shaming her. The little boy starts spelling out really odd words. Sister's yelling at him. She picks out a box of food, a little food tub, which just has raw liver in it, which she dips her fingers in and then tries to rub the blood on the lad. The pregnant mother starts, we'll get to that. The little kid gives it away at one point when he looks over at him spelling, and he's got like the wonky eyes of Pennywise for a moment. And then you start to realize this entire situation ain't right. The entire car is Pennywise. He's in Pennywise at this point. The mother then, because the lad tries to grab the wheel because he tries to get them to stop because he realizes they're driving back into Derry and something ain't right, slams on. She then gives birth to the baby, but it ain't a baby. It's a mutant baby with wings that she holds onto like a bat out of hell little demon by the umbilical cord flying around the car. Well, they're all kind of laughing. The kid's trying to get out, slamming against the window while he sucks on his pacifier. And then it kind of all goes silent, and the two kids plus the mutant baby all just turn their heads in unison and look at him. And then the baby jumps, and the glass smashes, the pacifier falls into the river, and it goes under the bridge. And that's when we get our opening credits. Brutal start. Now, of course, we know that Pennywise likes to hunt children, although we do see that, especially the Alan Skarsgård version, although the Tim Curry version as well, was not against killing adults. It's just kids can be scared easier, and this thing feeds on fear. So kids are actually more nutritious to it because they are more scared, whereas adults are more difficult to intimidate and frighten, and as a result, less nutritious. But it's not against it. We do see this interpretation of Pennywise take a bite out of an adult. He pulls out of the river. We see Tim Curry's Pennywise kill adults as well, like a guard at a mental institution. It's not against it. It's just kids are a better target. And then we sort of jump forward in time to our new protagonist, a young girl who's a bit of an outcast. And there's this whole joke about pickles in her locker. And we learn that her father worked at a pickling factory and a jarring factory, and he fell into the machinery. And kids, being dicks like they can be, are literally taunting her with this and leaving like pickle jars in her locker, set to smash on the floor when she opens it up. It's all very vile. But let's face it, kids, they can be mean, they can be dicks because they don't really think about the consequences of their actions, what kind of trauma they're giving this girl. But it pushes her to be more of an outcast, and we seem to be seeing the beginnings of a new losers club. These other two lads come along, one of whom is really guilty about the death of the other boy because he wanted to be their friend, and they kind of pushed him away. But in typical Derry style, the police didn't thoroughly investigate. People seem to already pretty much be forgetting. Not necessarily that the kid ever existed, but it's like being bothered that they're dead. Really thoroughly looking into, was it a murder? Was it an accident? Was it a suicide? Was it a runaway? They're much more inclined to believe runaway than they are that he was murdered. Things like that. That's the effect Pennywise has on the town. He makes people ambivalent, agnostic, whatever you want to call them. Agnostic, that's the wrong word. He makes people sort of disinterested and very, very kind of chill about everything happening. Yeah, they'll be upset that someone's dead, but they'll move on quick. And the town prospers with Pennywise, but he uses it as a place to feed. These kids start hearing Pennywise. They hear voices coming out of the drains. They hear Maddie talking out of the drain. They can hear him. And it's like, oh. And these fingers come up and she sees that. And it's just like, and one of the kids who's all about, like always saying like aliens are here, before Area 51 even. And he's like, he logically breaks it down. It's like how he would have had to know the sewer system perfectly. He'd have had to know when she was going to have a bath, and he'd have had to somehow squeeze himself through tiny little pipes to poke his fingers through the plug hole of the bath. Do you listen to yourselves? It's insane. It's not possible. But then they encounter another character who was initially blamed for this, and then she says, well, she heard something similar. I'm skipping over stuff here, but you get the meaning of this. You get in this forming of a new losers club. And you think they're going to start hanging around in the tower that has access to the sewers. And you think, at some point they're going to go down those sewers. They're going to try and confront Pennywise. But it's like, wait, this is the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise. He ain't going to die. They're not going to win. What's going to happen here? And they start researching it, and they start to realize that kind of people just kind of forget about all these bad things that keep happening in Derry over and over again. People just forget. They move on. The town is cursed, but no one seems to even know. There's this whole subplot of an Air Force base, which is actually in the books, which is, again, not in the movies. And, of course, we do have in the original miniseries in the 90s, one of the lads' dads was in the Air Force. We see him, Pennywise betraying him and slowly morphing into him. And it's set, the uniform and everything is this era. Now, they do a little bit of logic jumping here where they make like a character, the other character's grandfather in this, who's going to be one of the main losers, not his father, but that's because of time spans. And the more modern series, obviously, more modern movies being set in the modern era rather than the eras these things were written for. So with the span of time, it's had to go from being his dad to his granddad, things like that. So there are some changes. But they're minor, they're superficial, and quite honestly, whatever. So far, watching this, me personally, massively engrossed. It was good to see that these kids were not annoying. And the kids often are annoying, let's face it, in movies and in TV series. They can be kind of irritating. And it's a risk when you're going to do a show that's centered primarily around children. Now, of course, you have this subplot of the Air Force base. And you have this one moment where you have this undertone of racism that's happening in the base. And the new officer who's arrived is attacked in his bunk by three men. You initially think, well, maybe they're Pennywise. But my partner thought that, but I didn't. I thought, no, this is just other airmen hazing him or attacking him because he's black. Because it's the 1960s America. And that's just the kind of dog shit that used to happen back then. Now, he's able to fight them off and get them to leave. And that's not something that's going to be abandoned or forgotten. That's going to be picked up again. But that's a subplot that's dropping the threads for what this show is all going to be picking up the pieces of later down the line, which I absolutely loved. And then we skip forward. The kids are in a library. One of the kids has had to bring his little sister with him because he couldn't find a sitter. They then, after meeting the other girl, they find out what, because they've all been hearing this, they've heard this song, they want to know what it's from. It's from this film that Maddie watched at the cinema when he snuck in, which interestingly is the same cinema we see in the movies as well. Just we see it now in its heyday, no longer like an abandoned building like it was in the films, but actually, still painted and vibrant and people still going in to watch films. And they go in and you're pretty watching it. At first you don't notice it, but then you start to notice like that family from that car are in the crowd, indicating that all of them are actually Pennywise's victims. They're there as well. And then they see Maddie, he's in the movie. The kids stupidly are shouting to him to come out, and then he starts to blame them for his death, things like that. And once again, he throws this, he's holding a baby or a bundle of something, which turns out to be a baby, but it's that mutant baby again, which is weird. Incidentally, you never see Bill Skarsgård, to my knowledge, as Pennyworth. I think I did see a spoiler somewhere where it said you do see him in the crowd, but I missed it. I didn't see that. Tell me if you did. Um, Comes out as this mutant baby this time, and he starts attacking them, and it's vicious. He picks up the shorter lad first, rips him to pieces, throws him against a pane of glass, while the other girl who's in the projection booth is locked in there. He then drops down on the sister of the taller lad as the other girl's trying to shout her over, and rips her apart after kills her brother. This is the new Losers Club. Suddenly you realize, oh my god, they're all dead. She gets out and the other girl comes to get her out and they both escape, and they realize she's still holding the hand of the little girl who she'd reached out for. It is horrific, and that's where the actual episode ends, and you realize, oh my god, no one is safe in this. They've done this whole episode setting these up as the new heroes, the new Losers Club, giving them backstory, giving them agency, giving them intelligence. They're smart, they're witty, they're able to figure this thing out. They start to combat it, start to come up with a strategy. They begin to realize that there's something wrong. And you think, this is the new Losers Club. These are going to be the characters we're going to follow through this show. No, they ain't. Two of them are, maybe, unless they die in the next episode. But they're all dead. They might reappear as ghosts or manifestations or it impersonating them, but they're gone. They're dead. And it's like, oh fuck, they're dead. Because at first I thought it was a hallucination. I thought they weren't really seeing this. They were going to have this moment where they wake up and go, oh my god, what just happened? But that's not seemingly what happened, unless that is the beginning of episode 2, in which case everything I just said was actually a massive letdown, because they went there. They went for this. They just brutally killed them. And of course, you expect to see children die in Welcome to Derry, because again, Pennywise eats kids. It's monstrous, but it's true. Just a simple fact. He preys on their innocence. He preys on their fear. And the way this episode ended was absolutely perfect. I sat up from watching this and was just in awe of it. I was like, they've done so well. I can't wait for Bill Skarsgård to appear. What he's going to do with this character, with this show, it was brilliant. I am fully there for it, and I cannot wait for episode 2. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are you watching it? I may do more of these, but as I have said on other videos, I am not really a reviewer. I don't like doing them. Generally, I like to talk about lore, but the show's new. Kind of did this with Alien as well, Alien Earth. I may do more of them, may not, don't know yet. If you made it all to the end of this, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it, and bye-bye.